With a changing market, investing success requires a clear strategy and a track record of performance. If you're serious about building a property portfolio, you need to speak with Lachlan Vidler and his team at Atlas Property Group. As a national finalist for 2022 Buyer's Agent of the Year, Lachlan and his team are ready to build and scale your portfolio in any market. Whether it's financial freedom or a more secure future, Atlas Property Group is here to guide and support your personalised journey. Visit atlaspropertygroup.com.au to book in your discovery call absolutely free of charge.
This is a Momentum Media production.
Welcome to the Smart Property Investment Show, the podcast by investors for investors.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day you are listening to this brand new episode of the Smart Property Investment Show. I'm Grace Ormsby, and I know today's episode is going to be a cracker one. I can't believe we're almost at October. Where has this year gone? Someone who who's had a lot going on lately by the looks of this property portfolio that I've got some notes into at the moment. Leanne O'Sullivan, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to chat through your investment journey today. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thanks, Grace. Yeah, really appreciate the opportunity to share.
You've got a pretty big portfolio here. Let me just list out some of the basics. So you've got 9 properties, that's correct?
Yes, that's correct.
You've got 3 commercial and 6 residential in that. So that's already pretty diversified. And we're going to unpack all of this as the episode goes through. But I'd love to hear, Leanne, before we go into anything else, what was it that first piqued your interest about property investing and building up a property portfolio? Because nine's pretty sizable.
Yeah, we live on a cattle station in North Queensland, and you know our current industry can be quite volatile and unpredictable. So I was just keen to try and set something up off farm, and so just started looking into things and listening to some books and that to broaden my knowledge and sort of start the journey.
Cattle station, can you talk us through that? That's so cool. Not many cattle station owners really make it onto this show. I'm sure they're out there, but how long's it been with your family, this farming?
We've been here for 18 years on this property, and then we have another property as well a little further south. But we have cattle. We breed cattle here. And we have 57,000 acres here and another 11,000 down sort of inland from Rockhampton.
And you talk about it being a volatile industry. Can you talk us through some of what that volatility looks like? I'm assuming, droughts and floods have played in with that.
Yeah, we're working with nature, so we need to look after the soil to produce the grass, which then feeds the cattle, that grows the meat, that then we can then sell to feed people protein. And so you never know when it's going to rain, when it's not going to rain, how much or how little, the heat, storms, cyclones. So you've got all this, basically unpredictable environment that we're trying to function in. And then in addition to that, also our market, it's, we're very much price takers rather than price setters. So we're just at the whim of what the market's doing, and so it can lend itself to a lot of peaks and troughs. If you're not sort of trying to manage things to try and level that out, and that's hard to exist in. And then with the threat of all that, you do need to look off farm so that if times are tough, you do have some sort of other income coming in to try and help relieve the pressure.
For sure. So when did this journey into a property portfolio first kick off for you?
I think the years have gone a bit quick now, but it would have been in 2019, I think I started the process, and we'd bought a couple of properties. We bought 3 commercial. I think we'd just started settling on the first residential, and that's when COVID set in as well. So, it was sort of a bit of an interesting journey through all that.
Absolutely would have been an interesting time. So you've pretty much amassed this whole portfolio then fairly quickly. What's that been like for you? I
sat down and I really thought about what I was trying to achieve and worked out the returns that I was wanting to gain from these properties. And I wanted to create something that was going to self-perpetuate itself. So I wasn't relying on our grazing business to support it. It was supposed to be independent and grow in its own right. And so I realised that I needed to create a certain amount of income from that. And so, worked that scenario out, and from there then determined what I needed to buy to sort of create that, and then also create a balance where I sort of, it's not like you're not, to get a bit of security as well. So I'm not completely exposed to have high risk off-farm investment and be in the same sort of realm as what we're sort of working in with the grazing industry.
It's absolutely an interesting perspective and something that you're straddling, being both within the grazing industry and then having this property portfolio. And I love that you brought up that you didn't want your work effectively to have to fund any of your property investment portfolio. Does that work the same the other way as well? So you don't want it to be going the other way as well? Are they kind of, set up as two different entities for yourself?
Yeah, I've set things up as well in a mindset of succession. So we have 3 boys, and also it's a 3-pronged approach, I guess, as well, not only succession, but also security in terms of if there's a catastrophic event in the grazing industry, foot and mouth comes in or something like that, and, the business is in its long term and the business is badly affected, it can't then be linked to the off-farm. And so it's been set up separately with that in mind for security, and then also for ease of succession with our 3 boys in the future.
And you talk about not making it high risk, but there's been a fair bit of growth that we've seen in the property market over the last 3 years. And I still do want to unpack, a little bit more about each of these properties separately. But from what it looks like, you've already achieved some pretty stunning capital gains off the back of all of this. Was that intended, or has that kind of been a happy accident that's come along with what we've seen in property markets across Australia recently?
Yeah, the capital gain is part of the whole scenario, because that will enable me to, the first thought is the cash flow to create then a deposit in the future to go again, but also the use of that capital growth for your equity issues. However, it was quite circumstantial for the enormity of it, just given the fact that COVID came. And I was working with Arjun from InvestorKit, and we had the conversation when it all started, and the reality was that, doctors and nurses were not going to stop working during a pandemic. And so there was always going to be a need for housing. And so, that's why I then continued the drive in as COVID hit. We sort of got another 6 properties then quite quickly, and basically the back end of that, it really just then went berserk and with the capital growth. And so, quite fortunate.
And I will just flag these numbers for all our listeners. You've got, according to Arjun, now a total value estimate of the portfolio that's up above $5 million, despite only paying $3.75 million across all. Is that across all 9 properties, that total?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Amazing results. It must be pretty exciting for you to be seeing that kind of activity after just 3 years. As a business person, it's not often you're seeing those kind of numbers pop up so quickly.
Yeah. And when I first started out, being remote, the hardest point to even take the initiative to start was the fact of the isolation and the capacity to go and look at properties and that. And that's where I linked in with Arjun.
We're going to take a quick break there. We'll be back in just a moment with more from Leanne O'Sullivan.
Throughout 2022, we've already seen a huge ebb and flow in the Australian housing market. Property prices increased earlier in the year, but the rate hikes have slowed down price growth over the last few months. Even so, we've seen more new listings hitting the market than we've experienced in recent years. Plus, with many property owners having accrued a significant increase in equity, the market is hot for investors looking to snap up another property that may have reduced in price. To help you find these properties, the team at Pure Property Investment have done all the legwork to identify the top 30 suburbs that have not only shown growth throughout this year, but are also poised for strong capital growth over the next few few years. Grab your free Top 30 Guide to Property Investment Guide today at www.purepropertyinvestment.com.
Welcome back to this episode of the Smart Property Investment Show. I'm joined by Leanne O'Sullivan. You've worked in grazing the industry, Leanne. How different do you see building up a property portfolio like this to your agricultural work today? You know, do you take a different approach? Do you take the same approach, or what's been your experience?
I've taken the same approach in terms of the business strategy behind it and the analysis of it. However, it's completely opposite in terms of it's been all remote, whereas obviously on the property, it's hands-on. You're living on the property and it's 24/7. I've managed to be able to build up this portfolio from afar, and I've been able to do that by creating a team where I can work with who basically align with the same values as what I was chasing and the same business goals and all that.
How did you actually go about choosing your buyer's agent then? You work with Arjun from InvestorKit, but what was kind of that process like? Especially, you know, we talk a lot about people making interstate purchases now, and a lot of that is happening more virtually than it ever did before. But being out on a cattle station, it, you know, adds that whole nother level of a need to be doing it remotely and being able to work with people when suits you and all of that.
Yeah, an advertisement from our consult, and what I find when I'm looking for someone who I can tap into who will listen and hear what I'm trying to achieve as well, so we can work as a team. And straight away with Arjun, within that hour, capacity to listen, connect, and actually then link what I'm trying to achieve with his expertise, and then we started the journey. With the first purchase, I had to go. I flew down to Adelaide. Our first purchase was in Adelaide, but I had to go do the whole process initially for the first one just to gain the confidence and understanding and see it all. And once I did that, I was right. And then everything else, I haven't gone and done any of the initial inspections. It's all been done remotely since then.
And I know that, you know, just the fact that you've got this many properties over such a quick period of time, there's obviously some pretty serious finance accounting work that's going on behind the scenes with all of that. How have you managed that as well? And does that link in with this team approach too?
Yeah, initially through Arjun, we worked with a broker, and however, the bank that I aligned with had a very good relationship with the bank manager there. And so just started working directly with him for the succession purchases, and and so that still is going today, and that was very pivotal in having that link with that bank manager. He had the same. Yet again, it was a little challenging at the start, but to try and find someone, I guess, who you connected with and you sort of had the same sort of understanding of principles and what you're trying to achieve, and we managed to find that in this bank manager that we came across,
And I guess over the last couple of years, you would have been working with him a lot to build this up to now being at more than $250,000 in total rental income, and over 100,000 of that is passive income. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
So is this now going towards that, you know, potential next purchases, or is it just saving for a rainy day right now?
Yeah, so moving forward, the initial aim is obviously for this portfolio to self-perpetuate itself. If that passive income is to go towards a future deposit, I already have that dollar figure in mind for the capacity for the return that I want to get on that next property. So it's been working towards that. In addition to that passive income, it's also given me a lot of comfort and security, despite the size of the portfolio in such a short period of time. Having the capacity of that sort of income coming in, particularly through the pandemic, it's enabled me to know that if I had a tenancy that had to stop work and leave the premises or not pay for a period of time, I had the capacity to cover costs. I had the capacity to start paying down debt if I chose to, or keep things going towards that deposit for the next investment. And it's been a huge relief having that buffer there. And fortunately, through COVID, I didn't have any tenancy issues. So, yeah, only a month or two off the next investment.
Wow, that's soon. So you've already got your 3 commercial properties in Brisbane and 2 in Adelaide. You've got 6 residentials, which you have got a unit block of 4 properties in Wodonga, 2 houses in Brisbane. Where do you go next from here? What are you kind of eyeing off as the next spot on the portfolio?
Yeah, I really like the returns. I bought a unit block down in Wodonga and really like the style and structure of that. So I'm looking to go again with another unit block.
Mm-hmm.
Not sure where. Obviously, I'll have a chat with Arjun and through his research, we'll determine what area and stuff. But happy to go anywhere in Australia, basically, that will provide the return that I need.
So what is it about a unit block that makes it so ideal for you at this point, at this stage in your investment journey?
Yeah, well, particularly coming on the back of COVID, just the security, I guess, in the residential, there's obviously high demand for rental properties at the moment, and that I perceive that that's going to continue for quite some time. And then with the unit block, just the fact that you've got, we've got 4 units in that one block, so you've got, sure, it's only a small amount per unit, but together that's a lot more return on than a house that you pay similar price for. So just the rate of return basically in a more secure scenario in a residential as opposed to the commercial aspect.
Mm. And do you have any preference about regional versus city or anything like that? Especially, I guess you'd be coming from a pretty unique perspective, being up Queensland and regional.
Yeah, a little bit sceptical with the regional aspect, certainly up this way anyway, because there's sort of peaks and troughs, a bit like our cattle industry. However, so there are pockets of opportunity that I've since discovered and realised. So it's more about what's happening and what's on offer at the time and the bigger picture around that area. So if there is a regional area that can show to me longevity and growth, then it doesn't worry me anymore with regards to regional or in the cities.
We've still got plenty more to unpack, so stay tuned after this break. We'll be back with more from Leanne O'Sullivan.
Have you considered adding Perth property to your portfolio? Momentum Wealth has experts on the ground to help you find the best opportunities in WA. They'll take care of everything from shortlisting and inspecting properties right through to negotiating the best deal on your behalf. And when it comes to managing your property, they have experts for that too. Contact their award-winning team today at momentumwealth.com.au and get your advantage in Perth's property market.
Welcome back to this episode of the Smart Property Investment Show. I'm joined by cattle station owner Leanne O'Sullivan, and you've got 9 properties under your belt as well, Leanne. You must be quite busy, I'm imagining. Yeah, cattle station itself would be quite busy.
Yes, running multiple, I guess, businesses. Yeah, it's quite time consuming.
I mean, it's a full-time job, isn't it, anyway, being on a cattle station and the work you'd be doing there. How do you actually find time to look after 9 properties? Is it something that you do need to dedicate a lot of time to, or are they kind of at that point where it is a little bit of set and forget?
Oh, well, the aim is for me is that I always want to keep in touch with and make sure that things are still progressing. Because if things just set and forget for me, there's a greater risk that they're actually going backwards. So everything needs to keep moving forward, ticking forward, whether it's slight little improvements or whatever. So it was really important for me to set up a team around me. So obviously the initial one was with InvestorKit, and but then the service that Arjun provides at the back end of that, ensured that I got set up with agents property managers that could run the properties for me. And then also some of them, we did do some small renovations. So tapping into, linking into people who could do that all remote as well. And so I've structured it so that the team are doing all the everyday stuff for me. However, I'm just sort of overseeing everything. So it's just it still takes time. However, I'm just basically coming in, getting a report, having a conversation, ensuring that things are progressing along, and then tapping out and allowing them to do the day-to-day stuff for me.
Because when it is a $5 million investment portfolio size, that's on sort of, some would say, the larger end of things. Is there, a certain amount of hours that you are dedicating to it, or is it just kind of a when you're needed, hour by hour scenario? Or
yeah, it tends to just it tends to come in ebbs and flows. It sort of almost even comes all at once sometimes across the properties. But it probably would be, I'm guessing, probably be an hour a week. We would probably average out at.
Which isn't much.
No, it's not really. No. And then, I still need to sit down every few months and just assess where it's all going as a whole. And, from the business perspective, making sure that the goals are being achieved and what it's all looking like. And that's sort of, how I'm sort of flowing through with it.
And you've spoken a lot about the succession plan being a huge part of why you're doing what you're doing. What are your ultimate goals with the size or the shape of this property portfolio? What are you hoping that you can be achieving, 5-10 years down the track with this?
Yeah, so I've done a projection out, and obviously it's the time factor is limited to the capacity to earn the income within the portfolio. But obviously as that grows, it just snowballs. And so I've, determined an amount that my husband and I can use in our retirement, and so that in, say, 15 years' time, we've got our desired amount of money coming from that portfolio that we can then go, do what we want without any burden whatsoever on our grazing businesses, and which will allow our boys to come in and continue running those businesses and growing them without the additional demand of I guess, retired people who are not necessarily contributing to the income production of those businesses.
And you've had a vested interest in all those businesses for so long that would be a hard thing to give up in and of itself anyway. It's inspiring to see what you've been able to achieve in such a short space of time. Does it feel that way to you, that it's, amazing what you have been able to achieve, or is it just kind of what it is and it's all happened, the way that you expected it to? I don't know. I'm just getting the sense that it's happened quite easily. But is it just the way you're talking about it, so cool, calm and collected?
It ended up happening quite easily, I guess. The initial purchase was the hardest thing to do. And then it did just flow from there. And it all sort of just happened and sort of got put together and sort of probably now, though, with this sort of, having a chat with Arjun and the reality of where it's sitting at this point in time, it's probably the first point in time I've actually felt like there's been the reward of what we've actually achieved. And, and it's very exciting. And I'm, excited to keep going and see what else we can create.
And I do have to ask, Leanne, how the cattle industry is going at the moment. Does that feel as comfortable as the property investing does at the moment?
Yes, we've been very fortunate the last couple of years. We've had really good money for our cattle. It's been a long time coming. So, despite costs sort of going up over the years and all that, the return we're getting now for our beef is very rewarding. So, it's been which has allowed us to also buy another property and expand in that side of the business as well. So, it's actually very comfortable times at the moment across the board.
Yeah, we do talk about the property investment game being, it's a long-term play. It sounds like the cattle industry is an even longer-term play.
Yes, it is. And it's quite challenging because obviously when times are good with the cattle price, the land price is right up there as well. So, it's challenging to expand at this point in time. But, we've managed to do so and be able to work that business to grow again and I guess, apply the same strategy as our off farm, and that generate as much cash flow as we can to grow the breeders so that we can then go again and keep expanding things on both fronts.
You've sort of already answered my next question, which was just around whether the property investing journey has taught you anything when it does come to the grazing side of things. Has there been anything where you've gone, okay, we can actually apply this from the property side of things into how we're going to run our cattle business?
Yeah, it has actually, because the whole key strategy in the off-farm investing with the real estate is the fact it's the capacity of the money that we put in and what return we're making on that. And then, that's it. That's the only money I'm contributing. And then, everything else that's paying off that asset or growing that is being paid for by itself. And so, yeah, that's just sort of, that has slipped over into the cattle business as well, is really putting that focus on and having the production side, generating that same concept and working out that fine line where you can go again and go again, where you're not overexposing yourself, however you are pushing the envelope enough to keep growth happening.
It sounds like a really, really exciting time for you, Leanne, and I really appreciate you taking the time to chat today. I already want to get you back on the show. I'm going to say that even on air, because I feel like, the next few months are going to be even more exciting for you. So best of luck with it all. Congratulations on what you've achieved to date. And please do keep us in the loop with what comes next for you.
Thanks very much, Grace.
To everyone who is listening along, we hope you have enjoyed this episode. Like or review us on whatever platform that you listen to the Smart Property Investment Network on. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out, editor@smartpropertyinvestment.com.au. Stay up to date with us on our social media, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Subscribe to our email newsletters and our podcasts if you haven't already, smartpropertyinvestment.com.au. Until next episode, stay safe and well wherever you are. Bye-bye.
The information featured in this podcast is general in nature and does not take into consideration your financial situation or individual needs and should not be relied upon. Before making any investment, insurance, tax, property or financial planning decision, you should consult a licensed professional who can advise whether your decision is appropriate for you. Guests appearing on this podcast may have a commercial relationship with the companies mentioned.
Would you like the latest news and insights in HR, leadership and people management? HR Leader has you covered. Subscribe at hrleader.com.au.